Hello there. Welcome to the Science Owl Station channel. Today we begin a quiet journey not by moving faster, but by slowing down, by letting our thoughts drift outward, gently, into the vast calm of the night sky. Imagine this moment as it is right now. You are here, listening, perhaps lying down or sitting comfortably, the world around you dimmed just enough to feel distant. If you'd like, take a second to tell us in the comments where you're listening from and what time of day or night has found you here. And if you enjoy these slow explorations of science and wonder, consider subscribing or leaving a gentle like. It helps this quiet corner of the universe continue to exist. Now, let your attention lift upward. Picture the sky above you as a deep, endless black. Not empty, but softly textured, like velvet scattered with countless grains of light. This is not the sharp black of a closed door or a dark room, but a living darkness, one that breathes with distance and time. Stars appear like distant embers, suspended and patient, each one quietly burning through an age so long it barely notices us at all. As you listen, allow your shoulders to soften. Let your jaw unclench. Breathe in slowly, as if the air itself has grown cooler and thinner, touched by altitude. And as you breathe out, imagine the weight of the day easing away, slipping downward, leaving your mind lighter, more spacious. We are beginning our journey into the Milky Way, not as explorers in a ship, not as scientists rushing to measure and name, but as gentle observers drifting without urgency. There is nowhere to arrive, nothing to complete, only space to move through at the pace of a thought becoming a dream. The Milky Way often appears to us as a pale band across the night sky, faint and milky, like a soft brushstroke left behind by something enormous passing overhead. For most of human history, this hazy glow was a mystery, something familiar yet unreachable. People told stories about it, imagined rivers, pathways, spilled light from the heavens. Even now, knowing it is a galaxy, the feeling remains the same. Quiet awe, touched with comfort. From where you are now, Earth feels solid and close. But gently, almost imperceptibly, let that sense of closeness begin to loosen. Imagine the ground beneath you becoming smaller, quieter, as if you are rising without effort. Cities dim, roads blur into faint threads. The noise of daily life fades into a soft, distant hum, like hearing waves from far inland. Above, the sky deepens. The Milky Way is not rushing. It has never rushed. Its motions are measured in millions of years, its changes written in timescales so long they feel more like moods than events. Stars are born and fade without spectacle. Clouds of gas drift, gather, and drift again. Everything unfolds slowly enough that nothing ever truly feels sudden. As you float higher, the familiar shape of Earth becomes a calm sphere below, wrapped in thin layers of blue and white. There is no border between nations here, no sign of urgency. Just a quiet planet, turning steadily, carrying oceans and forests and sleeping cities through space. And beyond Earth, the Milky Way waits, not as a destination, but as a presence. A vast home that has always been here, holding our small solar system like a leaf resting in a slow-moving current. Galaxies can sound intimidating when described with numbers. Billions of stars, trillions of kilometers, distances so large they resist imagination. But for now, we don't need numbers. Instead, Think of the Milky Way as atmosphere, a surrounding, enveloping structure, more like weather than architecture. You are inside it already. You always have been. The stars you see tonight are not decorations pinned to the sky. They are neighbors, distant and calm, sharing the same grand rotation. Each one carries its own quiet history, its own steady rhythm of fusion and light. Yet from here, they simply glow, asking nothing of you. Notice how the idea of space, when allowed to slow down, becomes soothing rather than overwhelming. There is comfort in knowing that nothing out here demands immediate attention. No alarms ring in the vacuum. No deadlines cross the darkness. The universe is very good at waiting. As your breathing settles into a gentle rhythm, imagine yourself wrapped in that patience. With each breath in, the space around you feels wider, cooler, more open. With each breath out, thoughts that once felt heavy begin to stretch thin, dissolving into the dark like mist. This is what it means to enter the quiet of space, not by leaving your body behind, but by letting your sense of scale expand. Problems that felt large a moment ago now feel smaller, not because they are unimportant, but because the frame around them has grown so vast. Somewhere within this immense galaxy, stars are forming right now, deep inside thick clouds of dust where light barely escapes. Somewhere else, ancient stars are dimming, their work nearly done. None of it disturbs the overall calm. The Milky Way holds beginnings and endings with the same steady grace. As we drift closer to its soft, luminous band, the glow grows richer, layered. It is not a single light, but countless lights overlapping, blending into a gentle sheen. This is what happens when time itself becomes visible, when the accumulated shine of billions of suns paints the sky, and you are allowed to rest within this view. There is nothing you need to memorize, nothing you need to stay awake for. If your thoughts wander, let them wander. If images blur or fade, let them fade. The galaxy does not mind. It has been here through every kind of attention and every kind of forgetting. In the sections ahead, we will drift deeper, through size, motion, memory, and silence. But for now, simply remain here, suspended at the threshold. The Milky Way is all around you, vast and unhurried, and tonight, it asks only that you move at its pace. Wherever you are, let the world slow down for a while. Soften your gaze, let the hum of life around you fade, and gently drift with us into tonight's quiet exploration. The idea of home is usually something small, a room, a street, a familiar corner of the world where the body relaxes before the mind does. But now, as we drift a little farther from Earth, that idea begins to stretch, slowly, gently, until it becomes something much larger, something almost abstract. The Milky Way is our home too, though it is a home so vast that it rarely feels personal. Tonight, we let it feel that way. Imagine the galaxy not as a sharp spiral diagram from a textbook, but as a wide, breathing expanse. From edge to edge, the Milky Way spans roughly 100,000 light-years. That means that even if you could ride a beam of light, moving faster than anything else allowed by the universe, it would still take 100,000 years to cross from one side to the other. A journey longer than all of recorded human history, simply to pass through one galactic room. But there is no need to cross it, no need to measure it. You are not traveling to reach the other side. You are simply floating within it, like dust suspended in a sunbeam, content to stay where you are. The Milky Way contains hundreds of billions of stars, each one quietly minding its own existence. Some shine steadily, others flicker with subtle variability. Some are massive and bright, living fast, burning hot. Others are small, cool, and patient, destined to glow gently for trillions of years. Together, they create a structure so large that the mind stops trying to hold it all at once. And that, strangely, is where the comfort begins. When something is too large to grasp, it no longer presses in on you. It opens outward instead. Picture the galaxy as a wide night landscape. Not crowded, not busy, just expansive. There are great distances between things here. Space is the dominant feature. Stars are rare sparks in a vast calm, separated by light years of quiet. This means that even in a galaxy filled with stars, emptiness is still the rule. Silence, stillness, and space are the background. Let that sink in for a moment. Your worries, your unfinished thoughts, your looping questions. None of them are well suited for a place like this. They struggle to keep their shape when surrounded by so much room. They begin to thin out, stretching until they no longer feel sharp. Somewhere within this immense span lies our solar system, tucked away like a small cabin in a forest too large to map. The Milky Way does not spotlight us. It does not center itself around our concerns. And that, in its own way, is a relief. You are allowed to be small here. You are allowed to rest. Galaxies are often described as crowded, but the truth is far gentler. If you could stand near one star and look toward the next closest one, you would see mostly darkness in between. The light would take years to cross that gap, moving steadily through nothing in particular. That nothingness is not hostile. It is calm. It is forgiving. It makes room. As you continue drifting, imagine the scale of the Milky Way not as a challenge to comprehend, but as a container for countless quiet stories. Long before Earth existed, stars were already forming and fading within this same galactic space. Long after Earth changes beyond recognition, the galaxy will still be here, slowly rotating, still wide, still unhurried. There is a deep comfort in belonging to something that does not depend on your attention to continue. Think of all the light currently traveling across the galaxy. Photons that began their journey before humans learned to write, before cities rose, before the idea of you was ever possible. That light is still on its way, crossing vast distances without concern for arrival. It moves because movement is what it does. No urgency, no destination anxiety, just motion unfolding at the universe's chosen pace. And here you are, listening, breathing, resting. Another small, quiet process unfolding within the same immense structure. The Milky Way does not rush you. It does not ask you to understand it fully. It simply holds you, as it has always held everything that has ever existed on this small planet. The atoms in your body have passed through stars that lived and died within this galaxy. In a very literal sense, you are already part of its structure. You belong here without effort. As that thought settles, notice how your body responds. Perhaps your breathing grows slower. Perhaps your limbs feel heavier, more settled. The galaxy is not a place of sharp edges. It is rounded by time, softened by distance, smoothed by patience. Let your mind wander across its width, not to reach the far edge, but to appreciate the impossibility of doing so. There is peace in knowing that some things are too large to finish thinking about. They remain open, like a horizon that never quite arrives. In this vast galactic home, nothing expects you to stay alert. Nothing needs immediate action. The Milky Way has been carrying its stars in slow arcs for billions of years. Can carry your thoughts for a while too, letting them drift, dim, and eventually settle into rest. And as you float there, held gently within a structure so wide it makes time feel soft, you may find that sleep does not feel like falling anymore. Feels like arriving. Motion is often associated with effort, with strain, with the idea that something must be pushed, accelerated, urged forward. But here, within the Milky Way, motion takes on an entirely different character. It becomes something quiet, something so slow and steady that it barely feels like movement at all. This is the motion of patience, the motion of time stretched wide enough to be gentle. As we drift onward, imagine the stars around you not as fixed points, but as travelers, each one following a long, graceful path around the center of the galaxy. Our sun is one of them. It is not standing still in space. It is gliding calmly, along with billions of others, part of a collective motion that has been unfolding for billions of years. The sun completes one full orbit around the galactic center roughly every 230 million years. This span of time is sometimes called a galactic year. Since Earth formed, the sun has completed only about 20 of these slow revolutions. 20 gentle loops around a center so distant and massive that its pull feels more like guidance than force. Try to imagine that pace. Not seconds, not minutes, not even lifetimes. Just a slow, almost imperceptible turning, like a hand on a clock designed for the universe itself. You do not feel this movement because there is nothing to compare it to. Everything nearby is moving with you, sharing the same rhythm, the same direction, the same unhurried flow. This is what makes the motion of the galaxy feel like a dance rather than a race. Each star traces its own arc, slightly different from the others, yet all participating in the same broad pattern. From far above, the Milky Way resembles a great spiral, its arms curling outward with elegant restraint. These arms are not solid structures, but regions where stars and gas gather a little more densely, drifting together like eddies in a slow-moving river. As the galaxy turns, stars pass through these spiral arms, lingering for a while, then continuing on their journey. Nothing is locked in place. Nothing is stuck. Even permanence here is temporary, softened by time. Let that idea rest with you. Your life, too, has motion. Days passing, seasons changing, thoughts cycling in familiar patterns. Sometimes that motion feels overwhelming. But the galaxy reminds us that movement does not have to be urgent to be meaningful. Can be slow, can be repetitive. It can take millions of years and still be perfectly on time. As you breathe in, imagine yourself joining this galactic rhythm. With each breath out, feel your body aligning with a slower pace, one that does not demand attention or control. The galaxy does not steer itself moment by moment. It moves because it has always moved, because motion at this scale is simply what exists. Some stars move slightly faster, others more slowly, depending on their distance from the center. But none of them hurry. None of them arrive early or late. They simply follow their paths, tracing invisible lines through space that will never need to be drawn. There is something deeply calming about a system where nothing is expected to finish quickly. The sun, carrying Earth and all its quiet sleepers, drifts through space at a speed of about 200 kilometers per second. That number sounds fast when measured against human experience. But in the context of the galaxy, it is gentle, just enough to keep the spiral turning, just enough to maintain balance. And balance is the key here. The galaxy is not held together by tension, but by a steady agreement between motion and gravity. Stars move forward, gravity curves their paths, and the result is harmony rather than collapse. A cosmic understanding that has lasted longer than memory itself. As you imagine this vast, slow dance, notice how it reframes your own stillness. Even as you lie quietly, listening, you are moving through space. You are part of this motion, carried without effort, without awareness, without responsibility. There is nothing you need to do to participate. You already are. Perhaps your thoughts begin to circle now, like stars following familiar orbits. That is fine. Let them pass. Let them repeat if they must. Repetition here is not a flaw, it is a feature. The galaxy repeats its motion endlessly, and in doing so remains stable. As the slow dance continues around you, imagine the Milky Way turning with the softness of a whisper. No sound accompanies it. No signal announces its movement, yet it persists, quietly, reliably, holding its shape across unimaginable spans of time. And within that motion, there is room for rest. You do not have to stop the dance to sleep. You simply allow yourself to be carried by it, letting the rhythm do the work for you, as it always has. There is a quiet intimacy hidden within the vastness of the galaxy, something that brings the immeasurable scale of the Milky Way gently back toward you. It is the realization that the space around you is not separate from who you are. The boundary between the distant stars and your own body is far softer than it appears. As we drift a little deeper into this calm awareness, imagine the matter that makes you you. The carbon in your bones, the oxygen in your breath, the iron in your blood, carrying warmth through your body. None of these elements originated on Earth. They were not born here. They arrived long before there were planets, long before the sun began its slow orbit around the galaxy. Ancient stars lived and burned in the dark. Inside their cores, under immense pressure and heat, simple atoms were patiently fused into heavier ones. Hydrogen became helium. Helium became carbon. Carbon led to oxygen, nitrogen, and beyond. Each element formed slowly, carefully, as if the universe itself preferred not to rush. These stars lived full, luminous lives, and when their fuel was spent, many of them ended quietly. Some expanded and shed their outer layers into space. Others collapsed and released their material in powerful but brief events, scattering newly formed elements into the surrounding darkness. This was not destruction. It was distribution, a gentle spreading of possibility. Those atoms drifted for millions of years. They floated through the same kind of interstellar space we are imagining now, cold, silent, vast. They passed through clouds of gas and dust, through regions of emptiness so complete they barely registered as places at all. Time had no urgency here. There was no destination in mind. Eventually, some of that stardust gathered again. Gravity brought it together slowly into new clouds. New stars formed. New planets followed. And on at least one of those planets, atoms that once belonged to long-dead stars became part of oceans, rocks, air, and living things. including you. This means that your body carries a memory far older than Earth itself. Not a memory you can recall, but one written into your structure. Every breath you take is a quiet echo of stellar furnaces that burned billions of years ago. Every heartbeat is powered by elements forged in light so ancient it predates the Milky Way's current shape. Let that thought rest with you for a moment. You are not merely in the galaxy. You are made of it. There is something deeply soothing in this idea. It dissolves the feeling of being a visitor in the universe. You are not temporary or misplaced. You are a continuation, a gentle rearrangement of material that has always belonged to this space. As you lie here now, listening, your body feels solid and close. But imagine those atoms at rest, content in their current form. They have traveled far. They have waited patiently. They are not in a hurry to go anywhere else. The Milky Way has always been good at recycling its material, reshaping old light into new forms. Stars fade, planets form, life emerges, and everything remains connected through this slow exchange. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. It all simply changes pace and shape. Your thoughts, too, are made of matter following physical laws. Tiny electrical signals moving calmly through neural pathways. Even your worries are part of a physical process, one that can slow down, soften, and eventually settle. As you breathe, imagine each inhale drawing in the calm of interstellar space. Each exhale releases tension back into the galaxy that formed you, where it dissolves harmlessly into distance. You do not need to hold yourself together tonight. The universe has been doing that work for billions of years already. In this moment, you are stardust briefly learning to rest. At the very heart of the Milky Way, far beyond the calm spiral arm where we drift, there is a region that often captures the imagination with unnecessary intensity. The words galactic center can sound dramatic, even threatening, as if something restless or violent must be hidden there. But tonight, we set those images aside. We replace them with something softer, truer, and far more restful. Imagine the center of the galaxy not as a place of chaos, but as a deep, quiet well. Roughly 26,000 light-years from where you are now, the Milky Way curves inward toward a dense central region. Stars are more closely spaced there, moving in tighter orbits, like leaves circling slowly in a sheltered pool. Light gathers, motion continues, yet even here, time does not hurry. At the very center rests a supermassive black hole, known to astronomers as Sagittarius A star. The name may sound imposing, but the reality is surprisingly gentle. This black hole is not actively devouring everything around it. It is not roaring or flaring. In our era, it is relatively quiet, almost contemplative. Think of it less as a monster and more as an anchor. Sagittarius A asterisk has a mass millions of times greater than our Sun, yet its influence is expressed through balance rather than destruction. Stars near the galactic core orbit it steadily, tracing paths that have remained stable for millions of years. Nothing is falling inward dramatically. Nothing is breaking apart. The system holds. Black holes are often misunderstood because they represent extremes, but extremes do not always mean aggression. Sometimes they mean stillness so deep that motion curves around it. Gravity here does not shout. It whispers. As you imagine the central region, notice how calm it feels when stripped of fear. The stars there are not panicking. They are not being pulled apart. They are simply moving, slowly, predictably, guided by the same laws that shape the rest of the galaxy. There is a lesson hidden in this image. Even at the center of something unimaginably vast and powerful, there can be quiet. Even where gravity is strongest, there can be stability. Not everything intense must be overwhelming. Not everything deep must be dangerous. As we drift mentally closer to this galactic heart, everything becomes denser, warmer with starlight, yet strangely more serene. The glow is steady. The motion is rhythmic. The sense of pressure dissolves into a feeling of being held. If you imagine your own thoughts as stars circling something central, perhaps a concern, a memory, a feeling, you may notice that they, too, can orbit without falling inward. They can pass by again and again without pulling you under. There is room for distance even near the center. Sagittarius A** has existed for billions of years, quietly shaping the structure of the Milky Way without needing attention. It does not announce itself. It does not demand observation. It simply remains. And you, tonight, are allowed to do the same. You do not need to solve anything. You do not need to chase clarity. You can let your thoughts slow into wide, gentle arcs, circling softly until they lose definition, until they feel more like motion than meaning. The galaxy does not fear its own center. It has learned how to move around it, how to live with depth without being consumed by it. There is wisdom in that. As your breathing grows deeper and more even, imagine that same wisdom settling into you. Whatever feels heavy can remain where it is without effort. You do not have to approach it tonight. You can simply orbit safe, steady, supported by the quiet structure of a universe that knows how to hold enormous things without strain. In the calm heart of the Milky Way, nothing is rushed, and neither are you. As we drift outward again from the calm heart of the galaxy, the space between stars begins to feel more noticeable, not as emptiness, but as presence, subtle, delicate, and quietly alive. This is the interstellar medium, a phrase that sounds technical but describes something surprisingly gentle. The soft material that fills the vast distances between suns. Imagine floating through a region where nothing is sharply defined. There are no solid edges here, no clear borders. Instead, thin veils of gas and dust stretch across light years, forming immense, translucent clouds. They are so sparse that you could pass through them without ever noticing, yet together they shape the future of stars and worlds. These clouds are made mostly of hydrogen and helium, with traces of heavier elements drifting through like glitter suspended in air. From a distance, they appear as faint smudges against the black, soft blues, muted reds, smoky purples, colors so gentle they seem almost imagined. They glow not because they are loud or hot, but because starlight brushes against them, illuminating their edges like moonlight on mist. Let yourself slow as you move through these clouds. There is no resistance here. No friction, just a sense of drifting through something barely there, like walking through fog at night when the world feels hushed and wrapped in quiet. These interstellar clouds can stretch for hundreds of light years, yet contain less matter than the air in a single room on Earth. Vastness and delicacy coexist without conflict. Some of these clouds are calm and diffuse, content to wander the galaxy for millions of years. Others, slowly and patiently, begin to gather. Gravity encourages particles to draw closer, ever so slightly. Nothing dramatic happens, no sudden collapse, just a gradual thickening, a deepening of density so subtle it takes ages to notice. Eventually, in some regions, these clouds become cradles. Stars are born not in violence, but in shelter, within the quietest, densest parts of these drifting veils. Light dims, temperature drops. The universe draws a curtain and works privately, shaping new suns in darkness. Even creation here prefers silence. As you imagine these clouds, notice how they mirror the state you are moving toward. Thoughts become hazy, less defined. Edges soften, details blur. This is not confusion, it is rest. The mind, like interstellar space, does not need to be empty to be peaceful. It only needs room. Between the stars, there is no hurry. Clouds drift where gravity nudges them, at speeds so slow they feel almost still. A single grain of cosmic dust might wander for millions of years before becoming part of something new. There is no deadline, no expectation, and just like that dust, you are allowed to pause between moments. Your life, too, has spaces between the bright events, quiet stretches that do not need to produce anything. These are not gaps to be filled. They are necessary softness, places where things can settle and gently rearrange themselves. As you breathe, imagine inhaling that thin, cool interstellar calm. Imagine exhaling any sharpness, any tension, letting it diffuse into the surrounding space where it loses its weight and meaning. The clouds do not cling to shape. They change slowly, willingly, without resistance. Tonight, you can do the same, wrapped in this vast, delicate medium, neither empty nor crowded. You drift onward, lighter now, quieter, carried by a universe that knows how to be gentle even on the largest scales. Beyond the drifting clouds and quiet spaces between stars, the Milky Way itself is moving. Not quickly, not with urgency, but with the kind of patience that belongs only to things measured in billions of years. The entire galaxy is gliding through the larger universe, carried by currents so vast they feel almost theoretical, like tides you sense rather than see. As you rest here, imagine the Milky Way not as fixed or anchored, but as gently traveling, one luminous island among many, floating in the dark. Its motion is subtle, almost courteous, as if it knows there is no need to arrive anytime soon. Our galaxy is slowly approaching its nearest large neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. The word approaching might sound dramatic, but in reality, it is more like two distant lights drifting toward one another across an incomprehensibly wide ocean. The speed of this motion is calm, almost tender. It will take billions of years before anything resembling a meeting occurs. There is no rush. There is no anticipation. Just a long, quiet journey unfolding at the universe's preferred pace. Picture this movement as a kind of cosmic breathing. With each passing million years, the distance shortens by an amount too small to notice. With each passing breath you take now, your body settles a little deeper into rest. The scales are different, but the feeling is familiar. The Milky Way carries all its stars, all its planets, all its drifting clouds as it moves. Nothing is left behind. There is comfort in that image, a sense of being included, of belonging to a whole that travels together without fragmentation or loss. As galaxies move through space, they are guided not by intention, but by gravity, an invisible influence that gently curves paths rather than forcing them. Even on the grandest scales, the universe prefers suggestion over command. It nudges rather than pushes. It allows things to take the long way around. This slow galactic drift reminds us that not every future event needs preparation. The meeting between galaxies will happen long after every current worry has faded into irrelevance. Long after languages change. Long after coastlines shift and mountains wear down. There is something deeply calming about knowing that the universe is already planning far beyond the reach of anxiety. As you lie here, imagine the Milky Way cradling you as it moves, the way a ship carries sleeping passengers across a dark sea. You do not feel the motion because it is smooth, continuous, and shared by everything around you. Nothing sudden will happen tonight. The stars will continue their quiet glow. The galaxy will continue its gentle drift. And you are free to let your awareness fade in and out, knowing that motion does not require your attention to remain steady. Somewhere far beyond perception, two galaxies are slowly, patiently closing a distance that does not need to be crossed quickly. And here, much closer, your breath is doing the same, moving in, moving out without effort, without hurry. The universe has all the time it needs. So do you. Sometimes the most unexpected details are the ones that make the universe feel strangely familiar. As we drift deeper into the Milky Way's quiet spaces, there is a curious idea that softens the vastness even more, the notion that the space between the stars has a kind of scent. Not something you could smell directly, of course, but a chemical signature that hints at texture, at character, at personality hidden within the dark. In the cold, thin regions of interstellar space, molecules float freely, unhurried and loosely bound. Among them are simple organic compounds, formed slowly on the surfaces of dust grains, assembled atom by atom in the absence of heat or pressure. Some of these molecules are surprisingly familiar to chemists on Earth, and when translated into human terms, their presence has been described in ways that sound almost comforting. The clouds between stars carry compounds that resemble the aromas of toasted grains, warm metal, faint sweetness, even the smoky edge of something gently charred. Not strong, not sharp, just a suggestion. As if the galaxy itself carries a memory of warmth, even in the coldest places. Imagine drifting through such a cloud now. There is no air to breathe, yet the idea of scent lingers like a thought that refuses to fully form. It is not overwhelming. It is subtle, like walking past a kitchen late at night when something was cooked hours ago, and only the quiet echo remains. The kind of smell that does not wake you, but makes you feel safe. These molecules exist because space, despite appearances, is chemically active. Atoms meet slowly. Reactions happen gently. Over long spans of time, complexity emerges without urgency. Even flavor, in its most abstract sense, becomes part of the cosmic environment. There is something reassuring about that. It reminds us that the universe is not sterile or cold in spirit, even when it is physically cold. It is creative in its own quiet way, assembling patterns and textures without instruction, without expectation. The same laws that allow bread to brown or metal to warm under friction are at work here too, just stretched across millions of years. As you rest, let this idea blur gently. You do not need to picture it clearly. Just sense it as atmosphere, as character. The Milky Way is not just light and distance. It is chemistry unfolding slowly, patiently, in the dark. And like all gentle processes, it does not demand your attention. Continues whether you are awake or asleep, thinking or drifting. The galaxy carries its faint, imagined aromas through space, indifferent to observation, content in its own quiet complexity. As your breathing deepens, allow your thoughts to become similarly diffuse. No sharp edges, no strong reactions, just the soft background presence of something familiar and calm. Even here, among the stars, there is a hint of home. In the great quiet of the galaxy, there are objects that keep time. Not loudly, not insistently, but with a patience so precise it feels almost soothing. These are pulsars, the remnants of stars that have already lived full lives and gently transformed into something smaller, denser, and remarkably steady. Imagine a star that has collapsed inward, becoming so compact that its mass is squeezed into a sphere no larger than a city. This is a neutron star. It spins, slowly at first, then faster, conserving its momentum like a figure skater drawing in their arms. Over time, some of these stars settle into a rhythm so consistent that they rival the most accurate clocks ever built by humans. As they rotate, pulsars emit beams of radio waves from their magnetic poles. Each time a beam sweeps past Earth, it is detected as a pulse. Regular, unwavering, calm. Pulse after pulse after pulse. Some pulsars tick hundreds of times per second. Others are slower, more languid, spacing their signals with deliberate calm. But none of them rush. Picture one now, far away, embedded in the velvet dark between stars. You cannot see it with your eyes. There is no flashing light show, just a steady, invisible signal moving through space, counting time without judgment, without expectation. It does not care if anyone is listening. There is something deeply comforting about that kind of consistency. While days on Earth blur together and nights stretch or shrink depending on mood and circumstance, pulsars remain steady. They do not speed up when things feel urgent. They do not slow down when everything feels heavy. They simply continue, marking the passage of time as it actually is, wide, patient, and unconcerned. Some astronomers describe pulsars as the heartbeat of the galaxy, not because they control anything, but because they offer a quiet reference point, a reminder that time, at its core, is not frantic. It is measured. It is reliable. It unfolds whether or not we pay attention. As you lie here now, notice your own heartbeat. You do not have to control it. You do not have to count it. It simply continues, steady and faithful, carrying you forward moment by moment. In a way, your body already understands what pulsars demonstrate so well. The galaxy is full of these quiet timers, scattered throughout its vastness, each one keeping its own calm rhythm. Together, they form a background cadence that stretches across thousands of light years, threading the Milky Way with a subtle sense of order. Let your thoughts fall into step with that rhythm, not by counting, but by releasing the need to measure anything at all. Time does not need your supervision tonight. It is being handled. In the deep dark, a pulsar turns and turns again and turns again. Patient, unbothered, precise. And you are free to rest within that steadiness. Far from the crowded heart of the galaxy, beyond the denser swirls of stars and glowing clouds, there is a quieter place, a region that feels almost suburban in its calm. This is where our solar system resides, not in the center, not on the edge, but comfortably in between, in a stretch of the Milky Way that allows for long, stable rhythms. Imagine this part of the galaxy as a wide neighborhood at night. Lights are scattered, not clustered. Distances are generous. There is room to breathe. The stars here are not packed tightly together, and their gentle spacing creates a sense of openness, a feeling that nothing is pressing in too closely. Our sun drifts within one of the galaxy's spiral arms, but not in its brightest or busiest regions. It moves through a comparatively quiet zone, where stellar explosions are rare and gravitational disturbances are minimal. This peaceful placement has mattered more than we often realize. It has allowed Earth to remain stable for billions of years, giving lifetime ample time to unfold slowly. There is comfort in knowing that our cosmic address is not chaotic. As the sun orbits the galactic center, it carries its planets along like quiet companions. Earth, wrapped in atmosphere and ocean, has been traveling this path for its entire existence, rarely disturbed, rarely threatened by the larger motions of the galaxy. From here, the view is wide and forgiving. Picture looking outward from this galactic suburb. In one direction, the faint glow of the Milky Way's denser region stretches across the sky like distant city lights. In another, darkness opens up, deep and calm, dotted with solitary stars. It is a perfect place for reflection, place where extremes soften. This location has given humanity a rare gift, perspective without overwhelm. We are close enough to see the galaxy's beauty, yet far enough to remain untouched by its more dramatic events. Supernovae flare elsewhere. Collisions happen far away. Here, the night sky remains mostly steady, mostly predictable. As you rest, let this idea settle gently. You are not at the center of everything, and you do not need to be. Being slightly removed, slightly distant, can be a form of protection. It allows awareness without urgency, observation without involvement. Your own life likely has similar quiet zones, moments or places where nothing dramatic happens, where days pass gently, almost unnoticed. These are not empty times. They are the foundation that makes everything else possible. The Milky Way, in its quiet wisdom, placed us where calm could last. And tonight, that calm extends to you. As we remain in this quiet region of the galaxy, it becomes easier to notice the larger pattern unfolding around us. The Milky Way is not a random scattering of stars. It has shape, structure, and a kind of slow elegance that reveals itself only when you stop trying to see it all at once. Imagine looking at the galaxy from far above, from a place where distance softens detail. You would see a vast spiral, its arms curling outward like a slowly turning pinwheel. These spiral arms are not solid pathways or fixed lanes. They are more like suggestions, regions where stars, gas, and dust linger a little longer as the galaxy turns. We live within one of these arms. Our home lies in a modest stretch often called a spur, a smaller branch extending from a larger spiral arm. It is not one of the grand, luminous arms that dominate photographs. It is quieter, subtler, easier to overlook, and yet it is perfectly suited for long, uninterrupted calm. Picture the spiral arm as a gentle current in a wide river. Stars drift into it, spend time within its slow swirl, and then drift onward again. Nothing is trapped. Nothing is forced. The arm exists because motion and gravity briefly agree to create a pattern. As the Milky Way rotates, this spiral shape persists, not because individual stars stay in place, but because the overall rhythm remains. Stars pass through the arms like travelers passing through a town, present for a while, then gone, leaving the structure intact for those who follow. There is something reassuring about living inside a pattern that does not depend on permanence. Our sun entered this region millions of years ago and will eventually move on, carried by the same quiet motion that brought it here. Earth, too, is only a temporary resident of this spiral arm. Yet while we are here, the view is gentle, the environment stable, the pace forgiving. As you imagine this slow spiral around you, notice how little effort it requires. The galaxy does not tighten its arms or hold them rigid. They exist through balance alone, through patience, through time doing what it naturally does when left undisturbed. Your own thoughts may begin to feel similar now, circling gently, forming loose patterns rather than sharp lines. That is a good sign. The mind, like the galaxy, relaxes when it no longer needs to cling to fixed positions. The spiral arms glow faintly with the light of young stars and the soft shine of gas clouds, but much of their beauty is subtle. From within, they feel less like dramatic structures and more like atmosphere, a sense of being carried along something vast and orderly. You do not need to see the whole spiral to belong to it. As you rest here, drifting within this slow-turning arm, let yourself feel supported by a structure that does not demand attention, a pattern that holds without gripping, a motion that continues whether you are awake or asleep. The Milky Way turns, and you gently turn with it. Light has a way of softening everything it touches when you give it enough time. And in the Milky Way, time is abundant. As we drift onward, notice how the stars around you are no longer just points of brightness, but messengers, each one carrying a story that began long before this moment. When you look at a star, you are not seeing it as it is now. You are seeing it as it was when its light began its journey toward you. For nearby stars, that journey may take only a few years. For others, hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of years can pass before a single ray of light reaches your eyes. This means that the galaxy reveals itself slowly, like a memory unfolding. Imagine light leaving the surface of a distant star, quietly, without ceremony. It moves outward in all directions, passing through the thin interstellar clouds we've drifted through before, slipping between atoms without resistance. It crosses regions of space so empty that nothing notices it passing. Years stretch into centuries, centuries into millennia. That light does not hurry. As it travels, entire civilizations can rise and fall on distant planets. Stars can change. Worlds can shift. Yet the light continues, carrying an image of a past moment that will never exist again. When it finally arrives, it offers that moment to you, gently, without expectation. Tonight, you are surrounded by ancient light. Some of the stars you might imagine above you no longer exist in the form you see. They may have grown dimmer, brighter, or changed entirely. And yet, their light remains, calm, patient, still completing its long voyage. There is something deeply comforting in this idea. It suggests that nothing is ever truly lost right away. Moments linger. Beauty persists. Even when change happens, echoes remain, traveling quietly through space. As your mind slows, let this ancient light blur slightly. You do not need to hold it in focus. You can let it wash over you, like moonlight through a window, soft and indirect. The galaxy does not demand clarity. It allows impression. Your own memories behave in a similar way. They arrive softened by time, carrying only certain details, leaving sharp edges behind. What remains is atmosphere, emotion, a sense of having been somewhere before. The Milky Way is full of such gentle arrivals. As you rest, imagine yourself bathed in this old light, not as something watching you, but as something passing by, sharing its quiet history before continuing on. Light does not stop when it reaches you. It moves through onward into the dark beyond. And so can your thoughts. Let them arrive. Let them pass. Let them fade. The galaxy has been sending light across itself for billions of years, never concerned with who notices. Tonight, you are simply one more place where it pauses briefly, illuminating the calm, before moving on. There is a kind of silence that exists only where sound cannot travel. It is not the silence of an empty room or a quiet street at night, where distant noises still hum beneath the calm. This silence is deeper, more complete. It is the silence of space itself, and within the Milky Way, it stretches endlessly in every direction. As we drift here, notice the absence of sound. No wind moves through the stars. No echoes return. Even the most powerful events, exploding stars, colliding worlds, unfold without noise. Their energy travels as light and particles, but never as sound. The universe does not speak out loud. This kind of silence is not lonely. It is perfect. Imagine floating in this soundless expanse, where nothing interrupts your rest. There is no sudden noise to react to, no background clatter to filter out. Just a vast, uninterrupted quiet that allows everything else to soften and settle. On Earth, silence is rare. Even in the quietest places, the body listens for something. A rustle, a breath, a distant hum. But here, listening itself becomes unnecessary. There is nothing to monitor, nothing to anticipate. Let that realization ease your mind. In the vacuum of space, silence is not something that happens when activity stops. It is the default state. It has always been there, holding every star, every planet, every drifting cloud in a calm that never breaks. As you imagine this, allow your own internal noise to fade. Thoughts that once felt loud begin to lose their volume. They still exist, but they no longer echo. They become distant, like shapes seen through fog. This silence does not erase anything. It simply gives everything room. Even time feels quieter here. Without sound to mark passing moments, without movement to demand attention, duration stretches and loosens. Seconds feel less distinct. The boundary between now and later grows thin. You do not need to stay alert in this place. Silence has already taken care of that. As you rest within this perfect quiet, notice how your body responds. Muscles relax. Breathing deepens. The effort of awareness gently slips away. There is no need to listen closely anymore. The universe has nothing urgent to say. In the Milky Way's endless silence, rest feels natural. And sleep, when it comes, feels like simply becoming quiet enough to match the space around you. Names are curious things. They give shape to what would otherwise remain distant, turning vastness into something we can gently hold in the mind. The name Milky Way is one such gift, a soft, almost tender phrase for something so immense that it stretches across the sky and beyond imagination. Long before telescopes and measurements, people looked up and saw a pale, glowing band arcing overhead. It did not look sharp or harsh. It looked spilled, like light poured gently across the darkness. In ancient Greece, this vision became a story, one where the goddess Hera, startled from sleep, sent a stream of divine milk across the heavens. That luminous trail became the galaxy's name, a river of milk flowing quietly through the night. Whether or not one believes the story is beside the point. What matters is the feeling it carries. The Milky Way was not named after power or fear or conquest. It was named after nourishment, after softness, after something meant to sustain life. There is something deeply calming in knowing that our galaxy's most enduring name is rooted in care rather than force. Across cultures, similar images appeared. People imagined celestial rivers, paths of spirits, glowing roads for travelers between worlds. Again and again, the same instinct surfaced. This band of light was not threatening. It was guiding, familiar, present. As you rest, imagine the Milky Way as those early observers did, not as a diagram or a data set, but as a gentle presence overhead. Something constant, something that returns night after night, unchanged enough to feel dependable, yet mysterious enough to invite quiet wonder. Names like this soften the universe. They allow us to feel included rather than dwarfed. Even now, with all we know, the old name still fits. When seen from Earth, the galaxy's combined starlight blends into a pale, milky glow. No sharp edges, no blinding brilliance, just a diffuse brightness that feels almost like fog made of light. Let that image settle into your thoughts. A slow river of stars flowing across the dark. Your own thoughts may begin to flow the same way now, loosely connected, gently drifting, not needing to resolve into anything specific. This is how stories were meant to be experienced in the first place. Not analyzed, not concluded, simply carried. The Milky Way does not demand interpretation. It accepts meaning quietly, allowing each generation to find comfort in its presence. Tonight, it offers you the same. A name, a glow, a feeling of being held beneath something vast and kind. Some of the stars drifting quietly through the Milky Way have been shining for a very long time. Longer than Earth has existed. Longer than the sun has warmed our skies. These are the elders of the galaxy, stars that formed when the Milky Way itself was younger, less settled, still learning its shape. Imagine a star that ignited billions of years ago, when the galaxy was thinner, more chaotic, filled with fresh gas and unspent potential. That star has been burning steadily ever since, holding its light through eras that passed unnoticed by anyone at all. Civilizations have risen and vanished on planets that did not yet exist when that star first began to glow. These ancient stars are often quieter than their younger counterparts. They shine with softer light, cooler and more subdued, having long ago passed their most energetic phases. Many of them drift in the halo of the galaxy or in its thick disk, moving on paths that are slightly tilted, slightly different, as if they remember an older version of the Milky Way. They have seen everything change, and yet they remain. There is something deeply calming about that endurance. Not dramatic, not heroic, just steady. These stars do not compete for attention. They do not flare brightly or announce themselves. They simply continue, reliable and unhurried, offering light without expectation. As you rest, imagine one such star somewhere above you, ancient and patient. Its light left long before humans learned to tell stories, before names were given to constellations, before the idea of sleep itself carried meaning. That light has crossed centuries of quiet to reach you now. It arrives without urgency. In a universe where so much feels temporary, these old stars remind us that longevity does not require intensity. It requires balance, a willingness to burn slowly to conserve energy to last. Your own life, in its quieter moments, follows the same principle. Rest is not wasted time. It is how things endure. As your thoughts slow and your awareness softens, allow yourself to borrow that ancient patience. There is no need to rush toward tomorrow. Tonight is for steady light and long breaths, for letting time stretch gently around you. Somewhere in the Milky Way, an old star continues to shine, unchanged by the passing of ages. And here, beneath its quiet glow, you are allowed to rest just as steadily. Scattered throughout the Milky Way, hidden among the quiet glow of stars, there are worlds upon worlds, far more than the eye could ever see, far more than the mind can comfortably count. These are the galaxy's planets, each one moving along its own path, turning slowly in the dark, many of them untouched by warmth or light in any familiar way. Imagine these planets not as destinations, but as sleepers. Some are wrapped in thick ice, orbiting far from their stars, locked in a kind of endless winter. Their surfaces are still and silent, frozen landscapes stretching beneath unchanging skies. Others are rocky and bare, their days and nights passing without atmosphere, without weather, without sound. There are gas giants too, deep and layered, where storms roll endlessly yet never escape their own gravity. Most of these worlds will never host life, and that is perfectly fine. They exist without purpose, without audience, without expectation. They orbit because gravity guides them to. They turn because momentum carries them forward. Their long, repetitive motions resemble breathing, slow, reliable, and deeply calm. As you rest, imagine one such planet drifting through space, its surface untouched, its history unmarked. It has been circling its star for billions of years, completing the same path over and over, never bored, never restless. There is no pressure to change, no need to become anything else. The Milky Way may contain billions of these worlds, most of them forever quiet, forever unknown. They do not mind being unseen. Their existence does not depend on discovery. There is something comforting in that anonymity. It reminds us that value does not come from attention, that simply being is enough. Some planets may be locked in a slow dance with their stars, always showing the same face, like a sleeper turned toward the warmth of a fire. Others spin lazily, taking days or years to complete a single rotation. Time moves differently on each one, stretched or compressed by distance and motion. And yet, all of them are patient. As you lie here, notice how your own sense of time begins to blur. Minutes lose their edges. The idea of later softens. This is the same softness that surrounds those distant planets, turning endlessly, unconcerned with clocks. You are allowed to be like them tonight. You do not need to progress. You do not need to resolve anything. You can simply remain in motion without direction, letting rest do what rest has always done, quietly maintain balance. Somewhere far away, a frozen planet completes another slow orbit in total silence. And here, much closer, you drift gently towards sleep, held by the same unhurried laws. If you could step far enough away from the Milky Way, far beyond its spiral arms, far beyond its halo of ancient stars, and look back at it from the quiet outside, the galaxy would no longer feel like a band across the sky. It would become an object, a soft, luminous shape suspended in darkness, turning slowly, like a lantern seen through thin mist. And one of the gentlest surprises is this: from afar, the Milky Way would not look stark or harsh. It would look tender. Its overall color would be a pale, milky white, true to its name, because the combined light of many stars blends together into something smooth and balanced, like sunlight diffused through clouds. But within that soft whiteness, there would be subtle tints, faint bluish tones where younger, hotter stars gather, and faint reddish or rosy hints where nebulae glow and where older stars contribute their warmer light. Nothing about it would feel aggressive. Even its brightest regions would be softened by distance, blurred into gradients rather than sharp lines. Imagine that view now. The Milky Way, from a distance, would be a galaxy of quiet colors, gentle blues, muted golds, dust-dark browns, soft pinks, like a watercolor painting left to dry under a night sky. The spiral arms would curl outward with a faint glow, not like neon, but like moonlight reflected on slow-moving water. Those bluish regions are often places where new stars have formed relatively recently. Young stars tend to burn hotter, shining with a whiter or bluish light, energetic, but not frantic. They are like fresh candles just lit, bright at first, then settling into a steady burn. Their light scatters through surrounding dust, giving certain areas a cool tint, like the color of early morning before the sun rises fully. The reddish regions, by contrast, often come from clouds of hydrogen gas that glow when energized by nearby stars. It's a gentle kind of glow, not heat you could feel, but light that suggests warmth. These regions can appear like faint blushes across the spiral arms, pockets of quiet color where stars are being born behind curtains of dust. And dust matters here more than we usually imagine. Cosmic dust is not like household dust. It's made of tiny grains, silicates, carbon compounds, ice-coated particles, floating through space in delicate clouds. Dust does something very soothing to the galaxy's appearance. It softens it. It absorbs and scatters light, creating dark lanes that curve through the bright spiral arms like gentle shadows in a painting. These dark lanes are not empty gaps. They are places filled with material clouds so dense, by cosmic standards, that they dim the starlight behind them. They give the Milky Way depth and texture, like folds in fabric, like the shadowed places in a forest where the light can't quite reach. If you've ever watched moonlight fall through tree branches, you already know the feeling. Brightness filtered through layers, light and shadow interlaced, not fighting, simply coexisting. Now, bring that image inward again, back to your own experience of the Milky Way from Earth. When we look up at the night sky and see that faint, cloudy band, we are seeing the combined glow of countless distant stars, so many that our eyes can't separate them into points. They merge into a soft haze, like breath on glass. It is one of the rare astronomical sights that feels almost tactile, as if you could reach up and touch the light, and it would feel cool and powdery, like flour dusted across a dark countertop. Of course, you can't touch it, but you can rest beneath it, The colors of the Milky Way are also a reminder that the galaxy contains many ages at once. Blue suggests youth. Red suggests older, calmer starlight or glowing gas. White suggests the blended harmony of billions of stars shining together. The Milky Way is not one moment. It is many eras layered on top of each other, all visible at the same time if you know how to look. And you, too, contain layers of time. There is the you of today, carrying the weight of recent hours. There is the you of years ago, still present in habits and memories. There is the you from childhood, faint but real, like a soft tint beneath the surface. None of these layers cancel each other out. They blend the way starlight blends into one gentle whole. As you listen now, notice how your mind begins to behave like that blending. Sharp thoughts soften at the edges. Strong emotions become quieter shades. The day's bright highlights and dark shadows begin to merge into something less defined, more peaceful. This is not forgetting. It is settling. The Milky Way's colors are not a sign of chaos. They are a sign of balance, of different kinds of light sharing the same space. Even the darkest dust lanes are part of the picture. They are not mistakes. They are the places where future stars will be born, where the galaxy stores its potential in quiet pockets. There is a gentleness in that idea too, that darkness can be fertile. That stillness can be productive without trying. That something can be quiet and meaningful at the same time. As your breathing slows, imagine the Milky Way as a soft, luminous swirl seen from far away, white and blue and faintly rose, wrapped in dark, velvety dust. Imagine it turning slowly, like a sleeping animal shifting in its rest, never fully waking, never needing to. And then let that image blur. Let the colors fade into one calm glow. You don't need to hold the details. You only need the feeling of a galaxy that looks, from afar, like a gentle brushstroke of light, and the permission to let your own mind become just as soft. As we drift farther outward in our imagination, beyond the spiral arms and the soft glow of the Milky Way's main body, we begin to notice something else. Small companions, quiet and loyal, moving in slow orbits around our galaxy like moths circling a lantern. The Milky Way is not alone. It is surrounded by dozens of smaller galaxies, satellites, each one a faint collection of stars held together by its own gravity, yet gently bound to the Milky Way's greater pull. They circle at great distances, taking billions of years to complete their slow paths. They are not close enough to feel like neighbors, and yet in cosmic terms, they are part of the same household. Imagine them as quiet friends. Some are so dim and sparse that they are difficult to detect at all. They contain only a few million stars, scattered loosely like a handful of ash blown into the dark. Others are brighter and more defined, small, recognizable shapes in the sky. Two of the most famous are the Large Magellanic Cloud and the Small Magellanic Cloud, visible from the southern hemisphere as pale, cloud-like patches of light. They are called clouds because they don't look like sharp galaxies to the naked eye. They look soft, like distant smudges, faint companions hovering near the edges of vision. A gentle presence, not demanding attention. These satellite galaxies are ancient travelers. Some may have been orbiting the Milky Way for a very long time. Others may be new arrivals caught by gravity's patient reach. Over time, the Milky Way can pull material from them, slowly stretching them into streams of stars that wrap around the galaxy like ribbons. Even this process, which sounds dramatic, is slow enough to feel peaceful. It unfolds over hundreds of millions of years, like a tide gradually reshaping a shoreline. Nothing sudden, nothing violent in the way we usually imagine it. Just gravity doing what gravity does, quietly guiding paths, quietly gathering what drifts too close. There is something comforting about these satellites because they remind us that companionship does not require closeness. These galaxies do not sit side by side with the Milky Way. They keep their distance. They move on long arcs, spending most of their time in darkness. Yet they remain connected. They remain part of the same gravitational conversation. Your own life may have similar companions. People, places, or memories that are not always present, not always near, yet still gently orbit your thoughts. They do not need constant contact to matter. They can be distant and still connected. As you rest, imagine the Milky Way with its small companions drifting around it, all of them moving slowly through the dark like a quiet family of lights. Each satellite galaxy has its own history, its own structure, its own stars living and fading in calm repetition. And yet, they are held in a shared rhythm, part of something larger. This is one of the universe's gentlest lessons. Connection can be silent, can be distant, can be steady without being intense. And tonight, as your mind softens, you are held in your own quiet orbit too, supported by gravity, by breath, by the simple stability of the world beneath you. The Milky Way turns, its companions drift, and you quietly drift towards sleep. Now let the view expand one last time, wider than the Milky Way, wider than its companions, wider than anything that feels familiar. This is the moment where scale becomes a kind of comfort, where vastness gently rearranges perspective, making the heavy parts of life feel lighter simply by placing them inside something immeasurably larger. Imagine the Milky Way as a single grain of sand. Not because it is small in any ordinary sense, it is enormous beyond comprehension, but because the universe is larger still. In the observable universe, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies, perhaps more. Each one is an island of stars, drifting through dark expanses, each one filled with its own quiet physics, its own slow motions, its own ancient light. The Milky Way is one among many. Picture a cosmic beach at night, an endless shore that stretches beyond sight. Each grain of sand is a galaxy, and each galaxy contains billions of stars. The mind cannot count that many things, and it doesn't need to. The point is not the number. The point is the feeling. Abundance, spaciousness, and the gentle truth that the universe does not crowd you. It makes room. When you place your own concerns against that scale, they do not become meaningless, they simply become less sharp, less urgent, like a knot loosened by warm water. The universe does not dismiss your feelings. It merely offers them a wider container. And this wider container is made of time as much as space. Galaxies have been forming for billions of years. They drift, collide, merge, and reshape slowly, with no rush, no impatience. Stars are born and fade by the trillions, and still the universe remains calm, steady, spacious. It is not indifferent in a cold way. It is indifferent in a freeing way. It does not demand perfection. It does not expect constant productivity. It does not punish stillness. It simply continues. As you lie here now, imagine that your life is also part of this vast continuation. Your body is made of cosmic material. Your breath is powered by starlight stored in ancient chemistry. Your mind is a delicate pattern arising within a universe that has been unfolding long before you and will unfold long after, with the same quiet patience. You are allowed to be small here. Smallness in this context is not weakness. It is permission. Permission to let go of the need to control everything. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to drift, knowing that the universe does not require your constant attention to remain stable. Somewhere in the observable universe, countless galaxies glow, too far away to ever be reached, too numerous to ever be named. And yet their existence has a calming effect. It reminds you that reality is larger than any single moment of stress. Tonight, your worries can be a small thing in a very large sky. Let them shrink gently, not into nothing, but into something manageable, something soft, something that can be set down. The cosmic beach stretches on. The galaxy grains shimmer faintly, and your mind finally has room to relax. Now we begin the slow return. Not a sudden snap back to reality, but a gentle narrowing of perspective, like a camera drifting inward from the wide sky to a quiet room. The universe does not vanish as we come back. It simply becomes background again, a soft presence folded behind your eyelids, ready to reappear whenever you look up. Imagine the Milky Way still turning, still glowing, still drifting through the dark, unchanged by our leaving. It does not notice whether we stay or go. That is part of its kindness. It offers wonder without asking for anything in return. And now we bring that wonder home. From the vast cosmic beach of galaxies, let your awareness drift back toward the Milky Way, your galaxy. Still a luminous spiral of soft color, still threaded with dark dust lanes, still surrounded by quiet companions. Then narrow further, toward the spiral arm where our sun resides, that gentle suburban region of space where stability has lasted long enough for oceans to form and life to slowly bloom. From there, drift inward again, toward a single star, our sun, steady and warm, carrying its planets in quiet arcs. Earth comes into view as a small sphere wrapped in thin blue atmosphere, turning slowly, like a sleeping animal breathing in the dark. There is something deeply comforting about how small Earth looks from afar, not because it makes life insignificant, but because it makes life feel precious. It is a calm, contained world, one place where you can lie down and rest while the universe continues its slow motion beyond. Now bring that view closer. Oceans and continents appear, clouds curl and drift. Night spreads over half the planet like a blanket. Somewhere on this turning world is the place where you are listening right now. Perhaps in a quiet room, perhaps under a roof, perhaps with a window nearby, perhaps with the faintest sound of life still moving outside. And within that place is you. Notice your body again, the gentle weight of it, the contact points where you meet the bed, the chair, the pillow, the warmth of fabric, the softness of air on your skin. You do not have to come back with effort. You are already here. You have been here the whole time, resting while your mind wandered through starfields. Now, let the galaxy become a feeling rather than an image, a sense of spaciousness behind your thoughts, a sense of time stretched wide enough to be kind, a sense of silence deep enough to hold anything. If you like, take one slow breath in, steady, quiet, And as you exhale, imagine releasing the last bit of tension as if you're handing it to the night sky. The universe is large enough to carry it without strain. Somewhere far above, ancient light continues traveling. Somewhere far away, a pulsar keeps its patient rhythm. Somewhere beyond imagination, galaxies drift toward futures that do not need our attention. And here, in the small, safe closeness of your bed or your seat, you are allowed to sleep. Let your thoughts become fewer. Let your images blur. Let your awareness soften around the edges. You don't have to chase sleep. You can simply allow it, like drifting into a quiet interstellar cloud, like settling into the perfect silence between stars. The Milky Way is still there. It will still be there tomorrow night, and the night after that. But for now, all you need is this gentle local darkness, the comforting near space of your room, your breath, your body resting exactly where it is meant to rest. Good night.